Hello, you are very welcome back to the Wellness Script podcast, your source of truth for all things health and wellness. This week we have a slightly different episode in that we're focusing on career well-being. I'm joined by guest Angela Burke, who is a career consultant focusing on helping people find the career that aligns with them the most. Here is my conversation with Angela. Angela, you're very welcome to the Wellness Script.
Thank you.
I said in the introduction that this is a slightly different podcast for me because it's career focused, but I think that our careers are so aligned to our well-being, like what we do and how we feel. We spend most of our days, most of us working. So I'm very excited. I think we're going to do a great kind of 30-minute career well-being check-in with you, our career consultant for the day. How do you think about our career and how it influences how we feel?
I think it's the main influencer as to how we feel. Like when you think about it, we work. So I saw a piece of research that said that on average, we work 70,000 hours within our life. Now, I would actually say, I did a calculation on this. It's a while ago now. But given where that piece of research was from quite a while ago, so given we're all living a lot longer, I think when I did my updated piece of research on it, it was more like 80 to 90,000 hours.
Wow.
Like 90,000 hours of your life working.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, if you were spending even like 60, 70,000 of those hours in a job or jobs that you're unfulfilled in, you're not feeling confident, you're not feeling like the fire is lit in your belly. You're like, that's a huge portion of your life that you're not feeling good. And then I think the thing people don't think about is the ripple effect.
Yes.
And if you're not feeling good for say 40 hours of your week, then that's going to have a huge impact on how you show up and how you experience the rest of your life. Yeah.
It's not just those hours, is it? Because it's the Sunday night dread. And I think that that's something you talk a lot about, that people come to you with, and maybe that's the trigger for coming to you as well.
It's one of them for sure. And I've experienced it myself. And like the Sunday night dread, I think it's something that people just put up with because we kind of normalize it. We're like, oh, the Sunday night fear, the Sunday night scaries, but it's actually not so normal. Like you should be having the Sunday night fear, if you have a big presentation that we can work, or if it's busy time, if it's deadline time, that's fine. That's what I call situational.
Sure.
But if you're having, reoccurring Sunday night fear, that's not a normal thing. And actually more and more, thankfully, people aren't actually putting up with that.
Yeah. I think that what you said is so true, that it leaks into every other aspect of our lives. It'll bleed into our physical and mental well-being, our relationships with other people in our lives, and as you said, like it's quality of life. If it was something else, or if it was a family member or something in our lives, we would prioritize it. So I suppose our career well-being is so linked to our overall well-being. And I suppose, what do you think about when it comes to success on paper versus this thing of career well-being, or how do you find the balance between, I suppose, your goals, what you think that you want to achieve, and then how you feel day to day or week to week? Does that make sense?
You've hit on the nail there in terms of when I talk about success and when I work with clients on what success, defining their version of success, because I think historically the default is success is getting a certain title, a certain salary every month, maybe working on a particular project or in a particular industry. And that's what we naturally just kind of fall into. We start chasing these titles, these numbers, etc. But actually then when people come to me, what we spend time doing is actually stopping and thinking, well, for your life, for you, as who you are today in your life, the life you're living, what do you actually want success to look like and to feel like for you? And you hit on something so important there, Lauren, when you mentioned about feeling. And for me, it's all about the feeling. When you think about it, regardless of what the goal is, if we want to, why do we go to the gym? There's lots of reasons, right? We could go to the gym to lose weight or to put on weight, to get stronger, to get fitter, whatever it is. But what's behind all of those actions? We want to feel a certain way. We want to feel more confident. We want to feel stronger, fitter, whatever it is. It's the exact same when it comes to success in your career. Like you need to get really clear on how do I want to feel within my career, but also within my life, and what goals should be aligned to that in order to bring about the feeling.
Okay, so you bring people to that kind of truth within themselves, I guess. Yeah, because we do have the answers within, I think.
100%. We just have to, and I'm working on this in my own life, quietening down, silencing the external noise, which is, I think it's one of the hardest things that our generation is facing. And I truly believe that until I don't think we'll ever be able to do that unless we go off and live in a forest somewhere, right? And then we're just trying to, escape, block out the bird noise. But I think one of our biggest challenges is to quieten down the external noise, kind of remove what the default conditioning around success and around work and all of that, and actually tune into the person I am today and the life I'm living and the life I'm trying to live. Like what do I truly want? What would make me happy? What would light my fire up? But also it's that balance of like, what would light my fire up, but also bring me this kind of overriding sense of peace from day to day. And I know that sounds wishy-washy, but I really do believe that balance can be found. Yeah, and one thing that carries in everything that you're saying is the questions. Like, so taking that time to actually ask yourself, and then your brain has to find answers, isn't it? That's actually what, like when people come to me and we start working together, I think what they're usually, and I'm sure it's the same, with other career professionals, but what they're usually so surprised about is that, and I say this, I talk about this all the time on social media, that it's not rocket science. Actually, what I typically do is help people to declutter their shelves. Okay. So it's taken away everything that the limits, the fears, the conditioning, taken all those items, the confusion off the shelf, and then looking at the pieces and asking questions about those pieces, about the clutter, and then one by one, the answers will put back what needs to remain on the shelf, what needs to be added to the shelf, and the answers will remove what doesn't need to. So it's like decluttering the confusion and overwhelm and limiting beliefs and just stuff you've picked up along the way that's actually not doing you or your career any good.
There's no shortage of supplements out there, but knowing what's right for you is often the hardest part. That's one of the reasons I trust Sona Vitamins, who are the sponsor of today's episode. They're Ireland's oldest and largest producer of nutritional supplements with over 41 years of experience, and their philosophy has always been that good nutrition should be backed by science, manufactured to the highest standards, and delivered with genuine care for people and for the environment. But what truly sets them apart, especially from my pharmacist point of view, is that Sona still believes in real customer support. So if you're ever unsure which product is right for you or your family, or you have any question that you want answered, you can actually call or email and speak to a real human at the end of the phone, someone knowledgeable and who will guide you rather than being left to figure it out alone. They will endeavour to find an answer for you. You'll find the full Sona range in local pharmacies and select health stores nationwide or online at sona.ie. Now, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, and kind of figuring out where that came from and if it was your own belief or if it was placed on you in school or in a family situation or by another colleague. Maybe people are well-intentioned and perhaps we have a manager or something who's bringing us a certain direction, but maybe it's actually not what we originally planned or wanted.
100%. And what might surprise you is that, and I've seen this in my own life as well, like there's nothing really that, bar motherhood and that juggle, there's nothing that my clients come to me with that I haven't experienced myself, bar the motherhood juggle. But one of the things people are often surprised about is that the influences that are often the most harming and limiting is the influences that come from those nearest and dearest. Okay. And that's because they try to shield us through fear because of the love they have for us. So, like I even remember, like to share an example of my own story, like I remember when I was never in my wildest dreams did I ever set out to have my own business. I just need to make that so clear. It happened totally by accident.
Yeah.
But I remember, when I was making a career change, I remember my dad saying to me, but would you not just go back and do that career consulting in the university? So I actually initially started off working in a university in Dublin as a career consultant, helping their MBAs and their kind of master's business students. And did that for a while, went back into corporate, and then at my kind of pivotal point, which we can chat about, I was like, right, I know that I want to go back and do this kind of career consulting thing, but I don't want to just do it for students or for, people that were able to go to that particular university, or, people who were specialising in business or MBAs. I want it to be kind of accessible to a wide range of people, from your student in school to your, student in college, your graduate, your early career, mid-career, later career, senior career, and then retirement. And I was chatting to my dad about this, and, I've always had really lovely chats with Dad, about career and education from, I suppose, my kind of school days. And one of the things he said to me was, would you not just go back and do it in the university rather than, the risk of setting up your own thing? And we're not an entrepreneurial family by any means. So this was like alien to me, but there was just this little, whisper, that was the direction that was unfolding for me. And he meant no harm, and all he wanted to do was to shield his daughter but they were his fears. And this is an example of, and I saw it in that university as well. I saw so many students come in, and they were sharing different stories, and it was really clear that their career was definitely being impacted, and sometimes being driven, I suppose, by parental influence, which is totally normal. But I think the work I try to do is to, really gently help people become aware of the different types of influences that may be at play. And then once they're aware of it, then they can decide whether they are helpful influences or whether, they want to shield themselves a little bit going forward.
Yeah, and that's so interesting, Angela. And you mentioned your own kind of pivotal career change there. I suppose one thing that I find with people, and especially myself, coming from like a background where I studied something very specific, pharmacy, and so you become a pharmacist. And what I see with my peers is that it almost feels like that you're maybe, quote unquote, wasting a previous experience if you want to pivot into another. However, like everything we've learned, I guess, to date benefits us in whatever we do next, even if it is a complete U-turn or a complete 180 that we do. Is that something you find that people are resistant if they put so much into this career? How can if I change here, everyone will think I'm
100%. And particularly with specific, it's common across all careers, but really it's so common across careers where it's been a long road. So your legal, your law, your medical, your psychology, like those kind of careers, people are, and I completely understand. Like so much dedication, time, money, parental support has gone into this. And I think people feel, when you do a little bit of kind of digging, I think what's at the root of that is, and not for everyone, but I've definitely seen a common theme, and it's that like, but does this mean I've failed? Does this mean I've given up? And we're taught from such a young age, not to give up on things, and again, I feel like I'm just blaming our parents, but I know, if I think of my own childhood, like, I did piano and I did Irish dance, and now I will hold my hands up. My parents were right. I regret giving both of those up, but they really encouraged me not to. So what did that teach me? Don't give up on things. So to go back to your point, yes, people really struggle with it. But I think, again, the work that I do with those clients is helping them understand and kind of become aware of, because me saying, but your experience is not going to be wasted. That doesn't mean anything. So it's helping them come to the understanding and the awareness themselves of looking at it from a different lens to see, okay, so this experience can actually be used in this other way. And actually then, do you ever hear the phrase, you know when people say I've got 20 years experience?
Yes.
So I put up a post recently on this. I think people were a little bit shook. Definitely probably offended a few people along the way. But I often think, you know, when I look at a CV, I'm like, really? Do you have 20 years experience? Or do you have 1 year's experience? Repeat it for 20 years.
Yes, it's not diverse, I suppose. Or
this is it. You just went in and done the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think we're again kind of taught, oh, you know, that's what we must do. But actually, I'm a huge believer that we can have multiple careers in our life. I know my own career will, it's you know, already slightly little things are starting to pivot. And I know that who knows where it will pivot. And that excites me.
Yes.
And I don't think, you know, people have to drastically change either if that's not something they're comfortable with. But I think if we were all just a little bit, particularly with AI coming, if we were all coming, it's landed.
But
just a little bit more open as to where our careers might go, because there's such beauty in that, in terms of like, you could be by being rigid and by kind of being afraid to step a little bit into the unknown, like you could actually be closing the door, holding the door shut on the most fulfilling, rewarding, exciting projects ahead.
Yes.
So yeah, I just think just crack the door open a little bit and see what's behind it.
Absolutely. And I think like bringing it back to wellness, and I suppose the opportunity side is exciting and maybe scares people, but maybe do you sometimes tie it to their reality now? Like as in, what's the cost of staying where you are now? Like in terms of, I think of it from a health perspective, I see people who are physically unwell because of their jobs or because of the lifestyle that their job creates for them. So like, I suppose toxic cultures, maybe, you know, long hours. Is that something that you, maybe in the first session with someone, that you focus on? What's the cost of it right now to you?
100%, yeah. So before anybody, everyone makes their own decisions. And if you ever go to anyone who's trying to, you know, tell you, you would be great at X, Y, Z, run. Okay. Because it's not ethical.
Okay.
You know,
as a consultant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, you know, a career guidance person, whatever they want to call it, should never be, you know, telling someone to go down a certain route.
Okay.
You can absolutely suggest they look into certain areas, but they should never be like, you would be great at X, Y, Z, which is, I think, a lot of what we have experienced in school. I know I certainly did. But yes, that first session before, usually it's funny because usually when people, you know, land on my either virtual or physical door, they have been sitting in dissatisfaction for, like, honestly, Lauren, it's years. Like, I remember one lady came to one of my online workshops and she said she had been sitting in dissatisfaction for 15 years.
Wow.
Like 15 years.
Yeah.
So the first session is really, it's not like, let's go jump, let's go change. No, it's actually, let's stop and let's get clarity. So let's look at what's working. Let's look at what's not working. Let's look at what your life looks like right now and where you're trying to bring your life.
Yes.
And let's look at what you need then from your career in order to support that lifestyle that you're trying to live.
Yes.
So it's very, very practical. We absolutely get to, and it's so important that I leave space for, I say, lifting the limits. Like every single day of our life, we place and keep so many limits on ourselves across all areas of our life. Something I'm working on in my own life at the moment, trying to see what would life and career, relationships, everything, what would life in general look like if I just even remove those limits for a second, just to see what could that look like. So we definitely leave space for that as well, because they won't do it themselves.
Yes.
And then it all comes together.
Yeah. And I feel like if you're at home listening to this or in the car or whatever, you might listen back, because these are like questions you could journal on. These questions that you're throwing out, Angela, are like ask yourself these questions. It's like they can borrow you for this episode because they're just so helpful.
Well, the gold is there.
Yeah.
We just need to, like, 10 minutes, even spending 10 minutes answering these questions. Yeah,
a blank page. And you could set out to just fill in this one notebook page. You'll probably find yourself filling in loads once you get going. And I find that with myself when I journal. And another thing I suppose that comes up in healthcare, but I would imagine it also comes up for you, Angela, is that people think that if there's something wrong with them, or like it's a juggle between, like, am I broken? Am I misaligned? Or like, is this my fault? And I suppose, is that something you see coming up first of all? And what should people do if they do feel like that way, or is it that they've evolved?
It's the rush.
Yeah.
I'm seeing so much of that across my friends and across clients.
Yeah.
I only had this conversation with a gorgeous friend the other day, and what you're describing there is people have lost their spark. And then they start to question, like, is there something wrong with me? Is it career? Is it, and they don't really know where to go with it. They just know that they don't feel good in their career.
Yeah.
And when you actually, there's different kind of tools I use, but one of the tools that we can use is looking at when this started. And you would be so surprised, like our life, and I always say that our life and our career are so intertwined.
Absolutely.
They're so interdependent. And it could have been that something, in your personal life happened, and, maybe a breakup or the loss of a loved one or body issue, whatever it is, physical sickness, and that has impacted. Or it could be something career related where, you haven't felt appreciated and rewarded in your job for some time. You got difficult feedback. You've been working in a toxic environment. You have just kind of been stagnant, and you're not using your skill set, and you're not learning. And actually, because of that, your confidence is reducing. So first of all, we do a little bit of a investigation to see kind of where this all started and what's at the root.
Okay.
But so much more often than not, it comes down to they have lost their spark for one of those reasons. And then what typically happens is people don't know how to get it back. And I went through this myself, and I think the advice I would give to people, if they're listening and they're in this situation, is to, whether it's working with someone myself or trying to do some of this yourself, if you're not in a position, try and figure out, try and follow the route.
Yes.
So, what's the root cause? What happened? When did it start? What's causing that kind of loss of spark? But then you have to do something. And it can be as simple as what I find a lot of people come to me with is, I'm doing this job. It's killing my soul. I've no interest in it. And then when I say, and they're like, but I don't know what else to do. And I ask the question, okay, what's one thing you're really passionate about? If we lifted all the limits, if money wasn't an object, what would you do? And straight away their whole face changes.
Wow.
And they come out with something, and for 1 minute they have pure joy.
Yeah.
And then after that, their face changes again, and they're like, but I can't do that because X, Y, Z. And it's actually, I get emotional thinking about it, because the amount of people that I just see holding themselves back. And I'm like, so many people in life will hold you back. Don't hold yourself back.
Yeah.
So then with that, it's like, okay, so practically you have the mortgage, you have the rent, you have the kids, whatever it is that's holding you from that right now. That's okay. Let's honor that. That's really important.
Yes.
I'm not in the business of impractical
Drop
decisions,
everything.
right? But we need to get that spark back. And, unfortunately, what we're choosing, what we're not changing, we're choosing. So they do nothing, the spark isn't going to come back. So then what I typically do with them is what's something you could do that's low risk, if you're time poor, that, just a small time commitment that will start to generate a little spark. Just put a little sizzle,
Yes.
And you would be so surprised, once they do that, the sizzle starts,
Yes.
the spark starts to come back. And then that, I have seen it time and time again with others. I've seen it in my own life. It literally pours, it goes across all areas of our life. And what will typically happen then is the little bit of the spark that small little step has given them, then gives them the motivation that they've lost to actually make the bigger steps. And it gives them you know what it is, we're humans, we're conditioned to lean into fear to keep ourselves safe. We need to feel and see some reward in order to step into the discomfort. So they see the reward with that fire coming back, and then they're braver and more courageous in stepping into it. You can probably tell I'm so passionate about this, but I wish more people would just even explore it, and move at their own pace, but just stop holding themselves back.
Yeah, because I guess, as you said, our careers take up so much of our lives, and to deny ourselves that is costing ourselves in so many different ways. And
to deny, those words, to deny ourselves.
Yeah, rather than, it's not even oh, I should do this. You're actually denying yourself when they know the truth. When the question is asked of, of them, you know, and even myself, when I get honest with myself that you do have those answers and maybe you're afraid to go for them because of the practical reasons. But as you said, you can do things in a low risk way. You don't have to quit your job today, but try and maybe explore a hobby. Or, you know, for me, even when I was thinking, I always loved like media and things like that. And in college, obviously was studying to be a pharmacist, but started my Instagram page, and that was my outlet for self-expression and for producing content. But you know, obviously you're not getting paid for it. You just do it anyway. And sometimes the voluntary stuff can be really a great way to upskill one, but also to find your spark and to
try before you buy.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. You know? Yeah, maybe it's not for you at all. You know? Yeah. And with regards to career, how often is it that it's, you know, I don't know if you're able to quantify this, but in terms of making a big change, is it ever the environment? Like, could it be that someone's in the correct career for them, but they're in the wrong workplace entirely?
100%, 100%. And it makes such a difference.
Okay.
Like you can have, and that's the other thing, when people, it's back to they arrive confused.
Okay.
And they think they need to make a huge change. But when we start kind of investigating, I often figure out, you actually like your job.
Oh, right.
It's the boss or it's the environment, you know, and it can be as simple as, you know, I had someone, a few people actually this year who, you know, were working for, you know, more of a global corporation.
Sure.
And when we really kind of did the kind of discovery work, it was quite clear that they would be so much more suited and they would thrive in more of maybe in Ireland, like a smaller company that's Irish based, for example.
Closer to the center of it kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's also, it can be so many different things. It can be the dynamic doesn't suit them. It can be, you know, the fact that in a global corporation, everything is quite niche, as in your role is quite niche. You're there to do kind of maybe one or two things. Whereas in a smaller organization that's maybe, you know, Irish based, for example, typically there's less, you know, people, so you might be able to have a more varied role. But then it also comes down to style, you know, culture, etc. So there's so much being covered. Toxic work environments, you touched on that a couple of times. That has a huge impact. That destroys people's soul.
Yes.
And it makes them question their whole career, all of their choices. But actually you take that person out of that environment, they need a bit of nurturing because their confidence has been completely, you know, destroyed, and they're trusting themselves because they're like, oh, how did I miss this?
Yes.
But then you put them in the right environment, and I have seen so many times where they come back and they're like, Angela, like, thank you. Like, I can't believe, but it's not me, it's them. Do you know, they've done the hard work.
Yes.
But they're thriving then. So yeah, there's so many different things. And that's where the questioning and taking the time to really, and I think it's having someone else as well, whether it's a professional or a friend, but just having someone kind of help and ask you and challenge you a little bit so that you get to the root of the questions that are so often unanswered.
I'd say it's quite emotional work.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Because like, I remember doing career consultations before. I was like, why am I crying? Does that happen? You know, do people like, because it's treating the whole person. Like, you
100%.
know,
I am like, tears are completely welcome. Like I am definitely like the emotional one within my friends, you know. And I think actually this might sound crazy, but if there are tears at some point, you know, people will typically do a few sessions, and you know, usually it's maybe the first session that people are a little bit more tearful on. And it's, you know, it doesn't last the whole session. It might just be a moment, but that's good because it's a breakthrough. And it means that they have finally faced or acknowledged or accepted something, admitted something that they have been ignoring. Often it's coming to a realization.
Yes.
And sometimes it's sheer relief, you know, so tears are welcome.
Yeah, I love that because, and I think it's also, as you said at the start, kind of finding the right person to speak to about it that you trust with, because I think it's very vulnerable. And if you're just going to somebody who's going to be like, oh yeah, you should maybe try this instead, you can do a course or XYZ. But yeah, actually finding someone who's interested in you and what's actually really bothering you is,
And I think that's kind of how I differentiate myself in terms of, it's not just career. Like, it's funny, a client recently said to me, they were like, you're not just a career consultant.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's what I'm qualified in.
Yeah.
But realistically, it's not just that. Like, because it's you're looking at the whole person. And I think personally, to do the job well, and that's something that's really, really important to me, I think you have to be a really good listener, and you have to nearly, like, I'm listening and kind of sensing the unspoken. And I think that's where a lot of the truth is, and that's where a lot of the relief and the answers are, because you might have someone that will come and they don't actually know that it's unspoken.
Yes.
Yeah. I find it hard to describe, but I definitely know there's a huge kind of unspoken piece to my work that I kind of bring out. And that for me, anyways, it's those sessions that are like gold, and that's where the clients get the most, I think, when you lean into that.
And if someone were to come to you and they did get to the crux of, okay, I'm being really honest now, and this is my dream career, and this is what's really in my heart, like, is it fair to say that sometimes people are actually not ready for that career yet? And would you be as honest as to say, or like, to kind of take the fear out of it, out of kind of admitting, that quote unquote, that this is truly what their heart desires, but maybe they're not either confidence wise or qualification wise or whatever ready for that. How do you kind of what happens in that kind of a session?
See, I'll take them through kind of where they are right now. Yeah. So that's point A. And then what does point B look like to where they want to get to? Gotcha. Right? And then how do we get from A to B? So what do we have in our career toolkit that will get us from A to B? What's missing from our career toolkit to get to A to B? And often people, this is the thing, there's so much involved. Like, some people will know exactly what's required. Yes. Others actually won't at all. Okay. And so every session is very different. But the beauty of it is then it's like, it's there in black and white. You're here, you want to get here, this is what's needed to get from A to B. Yes. Do we have it? Okay, we have this, but we don't have that. So then it's quite clear as to, okay, I'm not ready, I need to get my ducks in row X, Y, in this area. And then and that's where the tough decisions are, because, we want quick results. Yes. And I think then, I very much encourage people, go away and sit with this. Like, you've uncovered a lot today. Like, take, it can be a couple of weeks, a couple of months. It'll be so different for everyone, but take the time to sit with this, sit with the truth. Start visualizing, what life would look like in the next. For some people, it could be a quick change. It could happen in a few weeks, a few months. For others, it could be like, because of their circumstances, it could be like, right, this could be a 2-year transition, for example. But they have to become, really, I want people to make really informed decisions. People they're responsible for their own decisions. Yes. So in order to make, informed decisions, they have to, and there's loads of work for them as well. I give homework in between sessions as well, because at the end of the day, I think this is what people appreciate, I only have bandwidth to look after a certain amount of people. And so what I typically get people to do in between is, if there's something that they can do themselves without coming back to me for a session, I'll say, you do this, and then for session 2 we're going to focus on this area. Yes. And I think people appreciate that, and it gives them the accountability to actually think, she's not expecting me to book back in until I've done this piece of homework. Now, of course, if people have unlimited budget and they're like, what, I'm actually not going to do this on my own, I would prefer to pay and to get it done in between. Absolutely, that's fine. Yeah. But I think it's a nice way of balancing. And the thing is, at the end of the day then, Lauren, I always say to people, this is not the only time in your career that you're going to have a career dilemma, that you're going to face into career dissatisfaction. Like, if you're in your 30s or 40s today, there's still a good bit of time, ahead, and even more so if you're in your 20s. So the tools, I suppose, that I'm teaching them now, I always say, like, you will have these, in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whenever this strikes again. And absolutely, you're welcome to come back to me. But you'll also be able, I truly believe that once people have invested in this type of work, they won't get to the depths of the dissatisfaction that they got to before, because they have the tools then, and they know what to spot and kind of how to get themselves out of it quicker.
Yeah, there's so much useful information in that, Angela. And you mentioned earlier about your own pivotal career change. Could you talk a bit about that? Like, what brought you? Why are you so passionate about this? Why does this matter so much to you?
Yeah, that's a lovely question. I suppose it matters because, like I said at the start, there's nothing, bar the motherhood juggle, there's nothing that my clients present with that I haven't experienced in my own career. So, I would like to think I'm quite an empathetic person. I feel what they're going through and I know firsthand the impact that has. So, for example, my career, I went to college in Galway, did commerce and NUIG. Like most people, didn't really know what was going to happen beyond that. And came out of college like the height of the recession. Ended up moving to Dublin, which was supposed to be for 1 year, get my experience, head back down to the coast to Galway and live the rest of my life. And I was really lucky in that, it took a lot of hard work and obviously, moved across the country on my own at I think 20, 21. Wow. But my career then did move quite quickly and, I was really ambitious. I suppose when I look back at my 20s, I'm really proud, but there is also, if I'm really honest, there is small bits of regret in terms of I really focused so much in my 20s and I feel like, gosh, should I have lived a little bit more, Yeah. But basically it got to, at I think maybe 25, 26, I was, in a really senior position, particularly for that age. Earning great salary, more than I ever thought was possible, but had so much stress. Okay. I didn't have the tools, looking back, I didn't have the tools at that age to manage the stress, to manage the anxiety that came with it and the, dealing with really difficult stakeholders that were twice my age. Yes. Difficult client, managing people. So like managing a team of people at 25 where, some of them were coming back from mat leave and you haven't experienced that. You haven't even been close to it. None of your friends, Yes. It was a really tricky, really tricky time. It gave me such a tough skin. But I think the most beneficial and valuable thing it gave me was it really made me figure out, okay, how do I cope with stress? Like what tools do I have? And it kind of sent me off on this big wellness journey, I would say.
You're big into wellness. And that's why why I think that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I do think that career leads so much into wellness and so much into how we feel. As you said, we're spending most of our lives doing it. So we have to address the elephant in the room. I can give, the prescriptions and the medication, but if the underlying cause is an absurd amount of stress from our work and our the way that we live our lives, maybe we have a great family life, but our work is just, completely throwing us off kilter, then that needs to be addressed. And I think that's why, I'm totally for sending someone, I might have a healthcare consultation with someone and say, maybe a career consultation is, because all they're talking about is my work and my travel and it just doesn't sound like they're aligned with the life that they want to live and the career that has presented itself to them. This is it.
And I think you've kind of summarised where, to cut a very long story short, where I got to was, I just felt so... I got the wellness tools and that was fine. And that's something you develop, I'm still learning new wellness tools. But then there was just this, it started off as a small whisper and it got louder and louder and louder to the point where I couldn't ignore it. And it was just like, there's more to life. There's just something missing. There's something else that you should be doing. In order to experience life the way you should be experiencing it. Yeah. And then I just listened to it and it took courageous moves. I remember I literally cut my salary in half. I left a 6-figure salary at 26 or something. Wow. Cut my salary in half to, go into a different direction and, then went back to corporate at a later stage when I had kind of more, I suppose, those wellness tools. But I think, I would say why I'm passionate is because I've experienced burnout, I've experienced overwhelm. Yeah. I've been in situations where, I'm with my parents who I treasure so much and I wasn't able to fully be present with them on a Sunday because I was worried about something in work the next day. And I see the impact that has on life. And I just, I really want to help others to not, to make the most of their career in a way that can actually support their life rather than taken away from it.
Absolutely, Angela. So if somebody's listening here today and they do have the scaries for tomorrow in work, or, you know, they're on the commute home from a stressful day, what would be your advice as to like the first step to kind of, to change that in their lives? Yeah.
I would say try and figure out like what causing the scaries, what causing the dissatisfaction or the overwhelm. And what's one thing, do you know what, like when you're that overwhelmed, you can't take big, huge steps. It's the small steps that will help. Yeah. So what's just literally one thing you could do that day or that week that could help that? So it could be, you know, chatting to your manager to get some extra support, chatting to someone like myself to actually, you know, get support with uncovering what's going on and how do we get you out of there. Chatting to a trusted, you know, colleague in work, maybe booking a break, booking a little bit of time off, or maybe exploring what kind of wellness tools can support you with where you are right now. But just identify one little thing that can move you forward, and those 1%, you know, will build. But you have to do something to help yourself.
Yeah, I very much believe in like signs and like the universe sending us somewhere. So if you're listening to this, maybe you found this episode for a reason. Maybe this is the sign that you needed to take the step, and hopefully there's a question in there that resonates with you that you can ask yourself and sit down with your journal and kind of go through. I certainly will be doing some of these exercises myself. Find it so useful. So Angela, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved it.
You'll find Angela at all the links below in the show notes, of course, and online. She's just fabulous to follow. So thank you for bringing your energy to us today, Angela.
Thank you so much.
And
My
your
pleasure.
Wisdom. That's it for today's episode of The Wellness Script. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit subscribe and review with 5 stars. It really helps us to grow and keep these evidence-based conversations coming with top experts to help you on your health and wellness journey. You can follow us at Wellness Script Pod on socials for more. And a huge thank you to our sponsor, Sona Vitamins, Ireland's longest established nutritional supplement producer. Catch you next Wednesday with a brand new episode, Your Prescription for Better Living.